Vampire lore isn't anything new to the United States. Their legends have actually been around the States for centuries. A lot of this was central to New England, so much so that Rhode Island was once called the vampire capital of America. The vampire panic of New England started after the European outbreaks that were happening overseas. Mass hysteria once again swept this part of the country again 100 years after the witch trials. When tuberculosis made its way to New England, it spread rapidly. It was called consumption because of the weight loss, the bloody cough, and the people being affected looking like they were physically being consumed. With no cure or medicine, it was responsible for 1 out of every 4 lives on the eastern side of the United States. It became a literal plague in the 1800s. With little to no information about this disease, people turned to the supernatural. Vampires would soon be the blame for consumption. Doctors started telling family members to burn their loved ones after they died to stop the spread, with the belief that the only way to stop a vampire was to burn their vital organs. In fact, the first reference to an American vampire scare was in 1784. It was in the form of a letter to the editor of the Connecticut Courant and Weekly Intelligencer. Councilman Moses Holmes was telling people to avoid a doctor who was exhuming children's bodies. Tales of vampirism had no choice but to thrive as tuberculosis was sweeping through households. Many of these stories involved parents, spouses, children, and specifically women. The desecration and exhumation of bodies was next, and their methods varied depending on their location in the country. Bodies as far west as Minnesota have been found with these ritualistic burials. Some flipped the exhumed person face down. Some took the heart, burned it, and then inhaled the smoke as a cure. Some beheaded corpses. Some dismembered and repositioned skeletons. And some bound their feet with thorns. Some communities chose to keep these as private practices. However, there are some communities on record that made these public and festive. The common misconception is that rural New Englanders were heavily Christian. In the 19th century in Rhode Island, very few of those rural residents actually belonged to a church. Rhode Island is also associated with being created for religious dissenters. This helped be a driving force for vampire panic throughout the area. There are plenty of stories that come from this era. Many are familiar with Mercy Brown, but there are numerous other stories that are waiting to be told. The United States is no stranger to panics. We can look towards the Salem witch trials, the handling of voodoo and hoodoo in America, and even the satanic panic in the late 70s and 80s. So it's important that we gain the knowledge behind these cultural or supernatural movements. That way the people who were affected in life or afterlife can be remembered for who they were, not who they needed to be at the time.